This is FE Peer Review. The date is the 11th of November 2021. Scale model of the solar system, at least roughly part of it. You know the routine. This is just a quick one, kind of off the cuff. It's an extension of the video I did the day before yesterday, Cool Moonlight and Other Silliness. That had been a response to somebody named Super Dave who wrote a comment about Cool Moonlight, which I addressed. And then also he wrote, please also provide a actual scale model of Earth, Moon, and Sun. Globetrotters had 500 years or so and still waiting. I pointed out that this had long ago been provided and that he needed not wait because it was there available. I also directed him to Tennessee Tech University, and I did a little bit on my video about Tennessee Tech University, where once a year the astronomy class creates a scale model of the solar system on the campus by distributing objects around the campus based on their sizes and distances from the sun. Anyhow, that led to some fun comments on my video, which I enjoyed, which got me thinking, well, I should make a scale model. I'm not going to be able to do the whole solar system, but I thought I could do what Super Dave had asked for, which was the sun, the moon, and the earth. And I had just the right idea. So let's take a look here at Google Earth. This is a town called Pontcroix. It's in Finistère, which is the westernmost part of Brittany. And it's a very famous small village, considered one of the prettiest villages in France. And here at the center of Pontcroix, there is a lovely 14th century church. Well, it goes back further than that, but the main part's about 14th century, and it has a gorgeous spire. And I thought that I knew there were a few places around the countryside where you could get a good view of that spire. And I thought that would be just about the right size to be the sun. So I did the math based on I happen to have a tennis ball. So I thought, okay, I'll make the tennis ball my Earth and I'll check on the dimensions to see if that matches, and it did. So with my tennis ball as the Earth, the width of the tower of the church as the sun, I figured out the distance from the sun to the Earth, and we see a circle I traced here in Google Earth. And I happen to know there were at least two spots where I would have a good view of the steeple. So one would be along the river here, along the footpath by the river. And there was another spot up here, actually lower right in the screen, another spot up on a hillside. But I was a little concerned there were some trees there, and those particular trees might be in just the wrong spots to block the view from the road. And anyway, I thought I'd probably enjoy the walk along the river more. So this was a great excuse to go out. We're having a beautiful sunny day, probably heading into winter. There probably won't be many more nice sunny days like this. So I thought this is a good excuse to get out and walk. So I went out to the river and set up a camera tripod and pointed my view towards the steeple. And let me bring up some photos. Actually, before I bring up the photos, I am going to go over the numbers. So what I did was I scaled it, and I just want you all to see the scale. We have distance from the Earth to the sun in kilometers, the distance from the Earth to the moon, the sun diameter, the Earth diameter, and the moon diameter. That's all in kilometers. And then I had a tennis ball, and that's in centimeters. And then using the tennis ball and the diameter of the Earth, I got a scale factor. It's just some simple arithmetic there. Nothing more complicated here than some division and multiplication. Once I had my scale factor, I applied that scale to the distance from the Earth to the sun, which was 0.79 kilometers, and the distance from the Earth to the moon, which I converted to meters, and it came out to 2.04 meters. And then let's see, the diameters. So the diameter of the sun, 7.37 meters, and scale of the moon, 0.018 meters, which comes out to 1.8 centimeters. So that's the numbers for anybody who's interested. And I'm not going to claim that I got my locations and sizes down to the actual centimeter degree of accuracy, but I think I'm close enough to be in reasonable range. If you got a problem with it, do it yourself. Don't tell me about it. Okay, so back to this. Okay, here's just a very brief, shaky little clip of the setup. I did a little bit of video with my very subpar camera, but just so you can quickly see the setup, I've got the tripod set up with Earth on the tripod, and I've got a tape measure stretched out here to 2.02 meters, and I had remembered 2.02. The number was actually 2.04, so I'm 2 centimeters off. Live with it. Here you go. And we're going to pan over, and we'll be seeing there's the Earth on the tripod. There's the church steeple there. The width of this flat part of the steeple is approximately the correct dimension. I'll get into that in a minute. And just panning back to Earth on its tripod. Did you know that Earth was supported by a tripod? And that's where I'm going to be setting up Moon. And I'm simply going to be standing with Moon directly over that spot there. So that's the setup. And we'll go back to these pictures here. So here I am standing now with Moon between my fingers. Oh, by the way, for Moon, I just cut a little disc out of a piece of cardboard. I didn't happen to have a marble. Well, there is one around the house somewhere, but I couldn't find it. So Moon is a piece of cardboard, Earth is a tennis ball, and that piece of cardboard is 1.8 centimeters diameter. Earth and Sun off there in the distance. That's it to scale. From the Moon to the Earth is 2 meters. From the Earth to the Sun is 0.78 kilometers. Let's look at a couple more pictures. Just zoomed in a little bit so you can see a little bit better. And then I decided to switch the position of Earth and Moon. So here now we've got Earth and Moon and the steeple in the distance. And then the last picture, I've got the camera right next to Earth, so it's as if we're looking at the Moon from Earth. And we see that the width of the Moon is approximately the width of the steeple. I did a pretty decent job, which they ought to be, because that's why we have our solar eclipses. So there you go, a scale model of the Earth, Moon, Sun system. I'll show you a couple more pictures that might be of interest. So I'm showing you this picture because I needed some way to figure out that that steeple was actually reasonably close to the size it needed to be to represent the Sun. And I went out and looked at this flat face here. I noticed that the flat face aligned with the side wall of this gable and also with this buttress. And I needed some way to measure the width of that. So I noticed that this aligned nicely, and this buttress came right down to the ground. You can walk up there. It's like a little park. So from that buttress, there's a second one further back, and that aligned as well with the backside of the steeple. So at the ground level, I was able to measure from buttress to buttress, and that gave me the same dimension as the width of the steeple, which, as it turned out, was just slightly larger than necessary. I needed it to be 7.9, and it was more like 8.05. So very close. So I'm satisfied with it. We're not like trying to fly a spaceship to Mercury with this information, so it will do. That's how I got the dimension for the Sun and the tennis ball and the little piece of cardboard that represented the Moon. So my thanks to Super Dave for giving me an excuse to go out and take a nice walk in the sunshine. And my thanks to all of you, my faithful friends who watch all my videos and leave all kinds of interesting comments. I appreciate it very much and enjoy everything you all have to say. I do hope you'll enjoy this video as much as I enjoyed making it.